to go to. Thank you for your input, and we're gonna, I don't know where the heck we're going from here.
Good evening. Today is November 15th. Welcome to the Subcommittee of Legislative Affairs. This evening we have 3 items on the agenda, 2 of which the maker of the motion would like to defer to the legal opinion of the city solicitor. So first item on the agenda, Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call before we list the first item on the agenda? I can tell you. Roll call. Councillor Keefe. Here. Councillor Novoselsky. Here. Councillor Powers. Roll. Absent. Councillor Visconti. Here. Here.
First item on the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee agenda is an ordinance establishing regulations for sustainable foodware and packaging.
Councillor McKenna and Councillor Giannino, who would like to speak first? Councillor Giannino.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. So I spoke about this in detail during the last City Council meeting and gave some backstory on the ordinance. The language from the ordinance was taken directly from the Massachusetts Sierra Club, and it's been widely adopted in over 50 communities across the Commonwealth. It makes sense. I know that there was one request that was brought to you regarding straws. I totally understand that there is a concern. However, I will say there are options. I went to Honeydew this morning, and Honeydew is giving out compostable straws that are identical to plastic straws, that look the same, that feel the same, that are, texturally the same, that would alleviate any concern. I do understand that that is a revision that's been accepted. I disagree with it strongly. However, if it's what it takes to get this important piece of legislation passed, I do understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, feel very strongly about this passing. I think it's a health risk to human beings and also sea life and nature. So I would suggest that we vote on it and we vote in favor. Thank you.
Excellent. So are there any other members who would like to speak on this ordinance? So in section 8.04.100, an ordinance establishing regulations for sustainable foodware and packaging, there were some changes. Section A, number 3, we scratched the word straws. Section C, under exemptions, the following was added to number 4. Straws expressly allowed under this section and shall be exempt from regulations contained herein. Does anyone object to that?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information, number 8 has straws on it too. Number 8.
That was the original.
Okay,
I
well,
think you have the
only
outdated
Okay.
version. The one that was publicized is different.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's no objections or no other comments, we can take a roll call.
Scratching out of this, you're scratching the plastic straws?
So on, Councilor Visconti, so on section A, number 3, we're scratching the word straws. And then section C, under exemptions, we're adding number 4, which is the following was added. Straws are expressly allowed under this section and shall be exempt from regulations contained herein. And it was advertised as well, like that. Madam Clerk?
On the ordinance as amended, Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers? Is absent? Thought I just saw him. Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo? And Chairman Morabito?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance as amended will be presented to the full city council this evening. Next item on the agenda is a motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor request the city solicitor to draft an ordinance and fee schedule regarding autonomous-driven vehicles.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo did want to defer to the city solicitor, but let's give him an opportunity to speak. Councilor Rotundo.
If you have an hour or two, we can go through the actual documentation in which they're talking about using autonomous vehicles. To what extent and when it will happen, I don't know. To what extent and how much money we should charge, I don't know, but I do know at present, Ford and several other companies are making their vehicles so that they have an autopilot mode, very similar to what Tesla has. So I can see within the near future, actually having a cousin that's involved in it up in Cal State, Caltech, excuse me, he is telling me that this is going to be in the very near future, because AI is changing so quickly that you will see autonomous vehicles within the next decade. And so my thought is, there is no reason not to be ahead of this and have something forward, no different than what we did with putting a charge on rental cars or anything of that nature.
And I commend you on being a step ahead. If the city solicitor can come to the podium, if you can just summarize quickly why we're not going to draft an ordinance right now.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. And I do appreciate the councilor's concern and diligence in regarding autonomous vehicles, but we're really, at this stage, putting the cart before the horse. There's a lot of legislation at the State House where a lot of this stuff is being considered. There will ultimately be a bigger state statutory scheme that deals with this. We probably wouldn't want to make any moves until we know what that is at the state level, because some of it might already be preempted, very things that the councilor is talking about. So, for example, this House Bill 1829, there are other House bills up there to talk about this stuff, but we don't have any autonomous driving vehicles in the moment that I'm aware of in Revere, so it really is kind of premature to act on this in this time, in my opinion.
If there's no objections, Councilor Rotundo.
I have no problem withdrawing and resubmitting in the future. I agree with you, Councilor Capizzi, that that is correct. There's also federal legislation that stands forward accordingly, but considering that we now house both, Amazon over at the old Necco site, 800,000 square foot of warehouse with many, many vehicles, as well as what they're going to do over at the old Showcase Cinema. I do agree with you, maybe it is a little bit of the cart before the horse, but Amazon's a multi-billion-dollar corporation that I feel that if we can get a little bit out of them before they get a little bit out of us, that'd be great. But, so I will withdraw this accordingly and go from there.
Thank you. The councilor is withdrawing this agenda item. Next item on the agenda.
Next item on the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee agenda is a motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that every public meeting conducted by a board, council, commission, and/or any group meeting in the Revere City Council chambers begin all meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Once again, the councilor would like to defer to the legal opinion of the city solicitor. Mr. Capizzi.
What do you want to know?
I already know the answer, but at the end of the day, someone who served this military and along with Councilor Novoselsky, actually we were in the same unit. I feel that, this is something that should be done. I know that people have a right not to do it, and that's their choice. I have seen multiple meetings by multiple different committees doing this. We serve underneath these flags right here. I mean, how many flags do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have the bastion of constitutional history in the streets that we walk on, the city of Revere, where there was a battle fought, the Revolutionary War, right down over by Cronin Rink. We have Paul Revere. So that's my patriotism speaking.
I'd just like to note that we didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance before the start of this very committee hearing. Just throwing that.
And that is part of my issue. It's not just any one particular committee. I'm sorry. The deterioration of the civics of our country are being torn apart.
I am not here to talk about
Well, that's part of
patriotism
the reason for the
or
motion.
civic
So if
responsibility.
you can just summarize end result, what creating an ordinance or a city policy would, what would be the end result, you think?
Being
your legal
the
opinion.
negative thinker the negative viewer of the world that I have here is that if we were to codify such a requirement, it would be subject to litigation. We have a First Amendment right not to say things. I know and understand he's narrowed that down a little bit to whether the committees in this chamber with these 8 flags, that they be required to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's not, I don't have a strong feeling, my opinion personally about it doesn't matter. Just legally, I am concerned about a potential legal challenge.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Please let him speak.
That's basically what my biggest concern. Once you codify it and put it in writing, anyone could then see it, and even if it's not followed, give someone an opportunity to challenge that writing, to challenge that requirement. Whether it'll be successful or not, I'm not talking about. But the fact is, we would have to defend it. It's our ordinance. Why? I feel like this is a solution in search of a problem. Is there a problem? Have people been complaining that there's not enough Pledge of Allegiance? I don't know why we're even proposing this, but that's my personal
Well,
opinion.
through you, Mr. Chairman.
You have the floor, Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. If you remember, I was the person that wrote the first law within the state of Massachusetts, or ordinance in the state of Massachusetts, that required sex offenders from living within, 100 feet, or what was it, 1,000 feet of a school. And it was challenged by the ACLU. Do you not recall that?
I recall lots of things. I'm not
Yes,
sure what
of
the
course. Well,
relevance that has
I
here
do recall
tonight.
it because
I do recall that.
I remember having a
We're
child
all-
at the McKinley School and a sex offender.
Counselor, we're already over in time. I don't want to do the back and forth. If you want
Well,
to
just-
disregard the city solicitor's
I
legal
believe putting it-
opinion,
I
we can
believe
vote
putting
on
it-
this if you'd like to.
I believe
but
putting it in a policy. If someone wants to challenge it, they go to court and they can challenge the policy. If you guys want to vote it down, you can vote it down too.
Well,
But
I don't
at the
take
end of
that
the day,
the
it's all-
challenge is lightly because of the cost to the taxpayers. If they were to prevail,
How many
the
times have
legal
we-
fees would be extraordinary. What, you want me to tell you the time we lost and here on the
Well,
microphone?
Well, first of all, we're talking about a policy, and the issue is, what is the,
Leave it
show
up
me
to
what
the policy should be up to the chairperson when they conduct a meeting. If they want to stand up and say it, they can. If members don't want to, they don't have to.
And that's
But
true.
we're not putting it in writing, we're not codifying it as an ordinance, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, we
Whatever you
did that
guys
with the sex
decide
offender
before-
ordinance, and we didn't ensue any major litigation issue.
Okay.
We also tried to zone out an
Okay.
adult video store, and that cost us $900,000.
You're talking about a different issue
Okay,
altogether.
Councilor Rotundo
So you're
and
talking
City
about a totally
Solicitor Paul
different issue.
Capisi. I just want to be respectful to the other chairmen who have committees to run. Are there any other members who would like to speak on this item?
If I may.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, being in the military for 27 years, I honor my flag. And, I think other people should honor it too. But instead of forcing people, I think we ought to have a high recommendation to the mayor that the chairperson of the committee that's being involved, that he highly recommends offering the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, people sitting in the audience don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. They're not required to. It's not a law, if anything, but it's respect. And I think if the chairman respects the flag, offer it. Anybody that wants to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please rise with us. But at least the chairperson offer it and have the committee and the people in the audience see what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I was a school teacher in Revere High School, we said the Pledge of Allegiance every single day. And there were kids that didn't want to say it, but they stood up. I asked them to stand up. They didn't have to recite it, but they stood up in respect. And that's how I feel. I think that, you know, if it's good for the schools, it's good for the city, it should be done. And if people don't want to say it, then just stand up. You don't have to
I'll make
recite
it easier.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sereno.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we withdraw this and send a letter out to every department head asking that they accordingly.
Counselor Sereno.
Mr. Chairman, if it's amenable to the maker of the motion, I would like to make a substitute motion that the city council, that our honorable body, go on record that we believe it would be best practice for our boards and commissions to begin their meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. That way, we are showing that that's how, you know, our feeling, that that's how meetings should be conducted, but it's not legally binding and could pose a legal challenge like the solicitor says.
Counselor Sereno, that would be great, but there's nothing in writing right now. So so you're writing a, what's
I'd be
your verbal
amenable to that.
motion?
I'd be amenable to that.
What's your verbal motion?
A verbal substitute motion through you to the clerk that the city council of the city of Revere, holds that it is best practice for all boards and commissions and public bodies of the city of Revere to begin their meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, including subcommittees of the city council, any and all public boards and commissions.
And what is the goal of the best practice?
To begin the meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance.
And what is the end result? What is the target? What do you want out of that?
I would hope that
Are there
they
any
would-
procedural disciplinary actions?
No.
So is it just
simple
for
as
show?
just a simple recommendation that we feel strongly that the boards and commissions should begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. That simple.
Okay. Are there any, state your name for the record?
My name is Janine Grillo-Mara. I live at 229 Rice Avenue, and I happen to be the chair of the Human Rights Commission. And I'd like to just briefly speak. Thank you for giving me the time. I know you're running late. We had a thoughtful conversation about this at our October meeting, and just some of the highlights I'd like to state. First and foremost, for someone to not state the pledge does not mean they are unpatriotic. So that needs to be clear. Second, our commission, more so than any other commission, is tasked specifically with issues around inclusion. Because the word God is in the Pledge of Allegiance and there is not a separation of church and state, there are people that do not believe in God. That's not their religion or their spirituality. And so it just does not sort of express a sense of inclusion, and those were some of the concerns that we had as a commission that were brought up in our conversation.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Rotundo.
I totally agree. But remember, every person that enters this country that takes up their citizenship has the opportunity to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Matter of fact, that's part of the process. Anytime that you become a member of a board, if I'm not mistaken, when you become a counselor, you do that. So at the end of the day, I totally agree with you as far as the issue of God. God is something that is sacrosanct with the Constitution. You believe or not, that's your choice. However, men have died for this flag, have died underneath the Pledge of Allegiance. And so that's my issue. And I believe Councilor Sereno had made a perfect substitute. I think it's
Point of information.
It's not for show.
Point of information,
it's a matter of
Counselor.
recognizing those that have died for it.
So, point of information, Councilor Rotundo withdrew his motion, therefore it would have to be a new motion.
And the last thing I'll say is there is an abundant amount of case law in the state of Massachusetts that a governmental body cannot impose this because of the First Amendment. So the recommendation, okay, thank you.
Is there any other members who would like to speak? Councilor Guanasso.
For all these people who have a right to not believe in God, what do they do with their money when it says in the back of every dollar, "In God We Trust"? Do they throw it away or do they keep it?
Okay, that's not an appropriate comment.
That's not an appropriate comment?
No,
Of course
no,
it is,
Counsel.
because what we're talking about here is people that don't believe in God. Well, you don't have to really believe in God to get money, but you take money. So this is a very, very strong ritual that was created for our country unity, for all of our citizens, whether they believe in God or not. And all we're doing is pledging allegiance to our country. And I don't find any fault with that. And I find if people have a fault with that, then they ought to go back to the country that they so desire. But I think in our country, it was founded on this belief. And I think it's one of the
Our
greatest
country
things
was
that we-
founded on immigrants.
Of course, and those immigrants created this. It wasn't created by itself. Those immigrants created this. And this is the way our land was created.
I just think you could have worded it a little bit better.
Oh, excuse me, you're a very liberal person. I'm a conservative person. I believe what I believe, and you believe what you believe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My
That's a
words.
stereotype.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, Counsel Keefe.
Thank you. And I'm really not trying to get down that rabbit hole right now. If we could just get some clarity on the emotion. I am in favor of the Pledge of Allegiance, but there's times, Councilor Serino and Councilor Morabito, there's times that I host a zoning subcommittee and I do forget to do it only because there was a meeting before, there's a meeting after, and sometimes it's not out of disrespect to anybody. I don't do it deliberately. I'd say more often I do have the Pledge of Allegiance, but I also do, I do appreciate everyone's right to choose. Now, as a request, certainly I'd be in favor of requesting that boards do present that, or at least make an attempt. To mandate it, unfortunately, I probably wouldn't be. But, so I'd like just some clarity. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the clerk, if that cannot be a substitute motion, I would like to formally make that motion. And Councilor Rotundo is co-sponsor.
What I would recommend is, since there's going to be a new council in another month and a half, and we're leaving 4, so you don't want the other members.
A roll
Okay,
call, sir.
let's do it. Roll call.
This is on a joint motion by Councilor Serino and Rotundo that the city council go on record in that it is recommended in best practice that all boards and commissions begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Visconti.
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Morabito. Voting yes, this motion will be reported out with a favorable recommendation to the full city council.
No further business. These items will be reported to the city council.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Doesn't that just feel better, guys? All right. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the City of Revere's Public Safety Subcommittee. I will briefly go through the members. Councilor Janino, the chairwoman of this committee. I want to thank Councilor Guanasso for being here, Councilor Serino, Councilor Visconti, Councilor Powers is absent. I also want to welcome Councilors Keefe, McKenna, Morabito, Novoselsky, Rotundo, and Council President Zambudo for being here this evening. We have one item on our agenda for the Public Safety Committee, and that is a motion by Councilor Morabito that the mayor and the Traffic Commission look into launching a new slow streets pilot program in the city of Revere. I'll hand it over to Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We have spoken about this at the City Council meeting. So I know Boston has implemented programs. It's called the Slow Streets Program. They use a bunch of tools like bollards and speed humps to deter speeding. And it's residents' #1 complaint has been speeding in Revere. And that has been the case in Boston as well. And since they have taken a pilot of this program, it's been very, very successful there, and the residents are ranting and raving about it. So it's something I would like the mayor to look into. I would actually encourage everyone on this council to go to Dorchester and actually look at the program and take a ride down there.
All right, so we'll go to Councilor Rotundo, then Councilor Keefe.
I can't remember, and possibly Madam Clerk and some of the councilors here may remember, that since the beginning of my tenure as a Ward 4 councilor, because I'm sure Councilor Keith is going to speak about Park Avenue and all the other major streets in which speed has been an issue. Elevated sidewalks are one of the things that I would like to see as well, not only for the handicap, but also for the issue that you have to slow down. And if you take a look at Shirley Avenue, it is working greatly, and people are not going to have the issues that were said that they were going to have. And in fact, in Cambridge and Somerville, in Boston, as Councilor Morabito has pointed out, it has worked very well. So I support this 1,000%.
Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you. As you are all aware, earlier this year, I had requested we had put some resources aside to create a public PSA in regards to reckless driving, careless driving, and speeding. There really has not, I mean, I hate to say this, there has not been a lot done to corral it. And we're going to go, there is another meeting coming after this. I think we all agree that it's a big problem in the city. It's probably a problem throughout the Commonwealth. But Park Ave is a perfect example. There's a beautiful school there. There's tons of kids. There's, what, I don't know, 700, 800 students in that one school, if not actually more than that, what am I saying? That the street becomes a speedway because we know it's a long stretch, a long road. We just had a huge accident on Dale Street a couple weekends ago. Car hit 3 or 4 other vehicles, crashed into a fence, and this isn't uncommon on that street, is we have to do something different. We say it all the time, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We haven't done anything. We did the speed readers a couple of years ago, which I was a huge fan of. I actually was the one who initiated that. But every councilor here has initiated some form of traffic and speed control in the city. We have to do something different. We have to start putting the resources. We haven't done raised crosswalks. We hear that the DPW doesn't want them or someone doesn't want them. The city wants them. The city council wants them. We got to do it. We have to do something different. We have to start thinking outside the boxes. People are flying into people's houses and front steps. It's only a matter of time. There was a student struck on Park Ave. Happens to be one of my son's friends. She was struck on Park Ave this summer. She's lucky she's alive. She got lucky. But the next person isn't going to be so lucky. We have to take this seriously. It just has to happen. Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky, then Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great motion. I've been, as Councilor Keefe said, I've been screaming about raised crosswalks at least 10 years for Campbell Avenue, at least 10. And I've tried it. I've seen them in other cities, in Malden and Everett. I went to Salem the other day, and I saw speed bumps, portable speed bumps. They're not permanent. They take them up for the wintertime. But in most of the problems we have are during the summertime. And putting these portable speed bumps out on certain streets is imperative. The raised crosswalks, imperative. And honestly, I'm a big supporter of Public Works, but I know that the way they do these crosswalks, the raised crosswalks, I know there's drainage issues and there's plowing issues, but they make them so the plows can still transgress the raised crosswalk. It's feathered out, it's high enough so cars slow down. It has to be done. We have to make it happen. We're the Revere City Council. If it goes through the mayor's office and the mayor approves it, then it gets done. Bottom line, DPW doesn't have a say. No, we are ordering it. This is our job. We're looking for public safety, and we want the public safety to happen. So let's get it done and ask the mayor to enforce our rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairwoman,
Anyone else?
Chairperson.
You?
In Winthrop, they have crosswalks with lights. And if, I don't know if they're solarized or not, but if someone's on a crosswalk and they're going across the street, the lights shine, the lights light up, and the person can cross. So I think that's a great idea, too. The other thing is, I just want to say, because I want to give him kudos, is my brother was one of the designers of the portable speed bumps. So, my brother. So, I just wanted to tell you that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Guanasso, then Councilor Visconti.
Madam Chairman, all the side streets off of Revere Street have become speedways based on the fact that people tried to circumvent going down Revere Street because it was a heavily trafficked area. And I live in a small street called Martin Street, and a lot of people take upon themselves to cut off in any one of the streets on the left-hand side of Revere Street and cut off the traffic, and then they come speeding down Hastings, and they come speeding up Martin on two wheels. They turn the corner and they go on to Fry Street. It's absolutely insane. And that's occurring not only where I live, and I see it daily. There's a school nearby. I know parents are very interested in getting their youngsters to school safely, but once they discharge their children, they become race car drivers, and wherever the next stop is, you better get out of the way because they're coming fast. And it's unfortunate that the folks that live in the area have to put up with this kind of stuff. Now, that occurs also at the Lincoln School. It's very prominent in this, where school children are discharged and brought to the place to learn. But one thing you got to do is put some sort of operation in place during school hours to stop that. And I don't see enough police enforcement. When they do see speeding cars, they just let it go by. They don't even bother to take the plate and do something about it. We got to do something as a city to create more enforcement that's make our city a little safer. Speed bumps work, they do work, but late at night, there's nobody around. They go around and they're flying. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I think that enforcement is one way to start.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Visconti, then Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm just going to say we need to be proactive rather than reactive, and I'm in favor of this for the safety of our children. So I think it's very important. I think it's something that we should look into and we should take serious. And enforcement also is needed as well, because like my fellow counselor said, some of these streets, they're using it as a track and going very, very fast down these side streets. So somebody can potentially get hurt. Thank you.
Councilor Sereno.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to commend the maker of the motion on this. I support it wholeheartedly. In Ward 6, Washington Ave, Malden Street, Sargent Street, they're all speedways. And now in recent years, the speeding has gone on to Asti Ave, Asunta Road, Steeple Street are just some of the streets that I get calls from, and up in North Revere too. And, I think on some of the streets, I tend to agree too that, having speed bumps, if other cities and towns can have them, I don't understand why we can't have them, because I do think that in some of these instances, that would at least cause people to slow down. So, it's not like we're asking for something that's fake, or, I know it's.
Point of information, so, sorry to throw
That's
you.
okay.
So, I appreciate the comments. Just a point of information, part of the Slow Streets program is in Dorchester, they already have done studies. So they actually removed the speed bumps, and they use speed humps and other tools that do not destroy plowing vehicles, because that was the #1 complaint. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Counselor. I didn't even think of that, but I was thinking more in line with speed humps, where they're the little elevation and then flat and then the elevation. But regardless, I look forward to voting this out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sereno. Seeing as there are no other councilors, I just have a brief comment, if I may, from the chair. So I had the opportunity to actually speak with one of the representatives. As you guys know, Dorchester has many representatives, and I was at an event with one of them, and I spoke with her briefly regarding this program. And what I think makes it so unique and effective is that it's not just, you know, I think a speed bump should be here, make a council motion and vote on it. It's an inclusive process. So there's a planning element, there's community engagement, there's a design and implementation phase, and there's monitoring. So if something doesn't work, it's reevaluated. So because it is an in-depth program and it is going to require bodies to run it and make sure it works. But I do think if it is maintained, it can be really effective, and you can find out where things work and where they don't. And for those reasons, I'll be supporting it. So I ask for a roll call of the committee members to vote this out to the committee of the whole this evening.
On the motion, Councilor Guanasso is absent. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo? Yes. And Chairwoman Janino?
Yes.
Yes, this motion will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
No further business.
This concludes the Public Safety Subcommittee.
Good evening. Call to order the Monday, November 15th zoning subcommittee meeting. We'll all rise and salute the flag. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Call the roll. We have Council Janino. Council Visconti.
Here.
Councilor Guanasso.
Here.
Councilor Sereno.
Here.
And Councilor Zambudo.
Here, it's Council President.
Council President, thank you. Sorry, my apologies. Sure is, Mr. President. Thank you.
First item on this evening's agenda is an application by Victoria Scaramuzzo and Johnny Peguero to discontinue and abandon a certain portion of Italia Avenue as illustrated on the petitioner's plan.
Thank you. And members, as you know, we're coming up on time. I think this has already been brought up, and I know that the attorney is here to give a quick presentation.
I will be very quick.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Joseph Cotoggio, 1 Sprague Street, Revere, representing the applicants who are seeking the abandonment of a small section off of Geneva Street that measures 40 by 80, that is basically, and for all intents and purposes right now, being used as side yards for my 2 clients. The city has presently no use for this land. It has been fenced off to the back. It has grown over with grass throughout. And the application has been brought forth to community development and the city engineer, both who have no problem with it. We've also contacted the ward councilor who is here and can speak on it as well. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Attorney Cotoggio. And for the record, as mentioned, the city officials are in favor, and Council Sereno being your ward, if you have any comments on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So many of the residents, not just the owners of the property, but many residents in the neighborhood who actually live on the street and around have contacted me in support. So I am in support. And just to clarify, I'm almost positive, it's unbuildable, right? So essentially, it's never, that was the one concern that was brought up, that, down the road, it could be, something could be built. But I didn't think it was buildable.
No, once abandoned, each lot will measure 20 by 80, will not be buildable, and will be conveyed to the adjoining owner.
Thank you.
And I think some of the intention was to add off-street parking for those homes, which is, would be beneficial to the neighborhood. Council Novoselsky?
Just one question. Yes. No utilities going through that property?
We checked with city engineers. He indicated there was nothing there for the city to be concerned with.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. And Attorney Cotoggio, just also so you know, the recording of the deed would need to be, the people that would be receiving the property would have to assume that the cost of recording the deed.
Yes, we'll take care of that. There's also the recording of the plan.
Correct.
After being signed by the planning board, we will be incurring that cost as well.
Okay, just want to make sure you're aware of that. So all in favor, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
On the, shall the city council discontinue and abandon a certain portion of Italia Avenue as illustrated on the petitioner's plan? Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, this petition will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation. Next item on the agenda is a special permit application to enable the City of Revere to construct a public works building at 321 Charger Street.
Madam Clerk, I believe, City Council, honorable body, I know we have Don Charamella and we have a representative from the architectural firm. There was, one of the representatives was unable to come here, be with us this evening due to an illness in the family, but this is, in essence, to approve the moving forward of the DPW building site plan. So, Mr. Charamella, I'm not sure if you have anything you want to bring forward to us as a proponent, I would assume?
Don Charmella, Chief of Infrastructure and Engineering for the City of Revere, 215 Rice Ave, Revere. So this building is a building that that's been, long we've been waiting for. The old facility is, obviously in complete disrepair, completely inefficient, and much smaller for our purposes. And there's just no way of, there was no way of, bringing this building back into some sort of workable condition. So the solution is to build a new facility, which is approximately 37,500 square feet in lieu of the 25,000 square foot building that we had. And this will give us some ability to grow the DPW. And I think that there's no dispute that I think that, the DPW has been performing very well the last couple of years. So I think this will help. If you think about it, we have a building that we just can't use. We work out of trailers, and the situation is difficult at best because we have no real place to store vehicles or house our employees safely and comfortably. So, this building is, I think, something that we need, and I hope there's no, opposition to this.
Thank you. And I know the council, we've seen different renderings. This is, just a reminder, this is not any approval of final renderings. This is more of the process of continuing to seek the approvals for this building, which, of course, we've already approved the funding for it. And I believe that everyone here seems to be very much in favor of supporting the DPW and the expansion of the eventual site. So I'm not sure if any of the council has any questions on this, or if you'd like to just move forward. Council Novoselsky.
Just a quick, can we get whatever the latest rendering looks like?
I've got one right here, and I apologize that we don't have a better rendering for you, but as the gentleman said here, I had about 2 hours notice to get here, so that's the latest rendering, and I think you can see it's a fairly straightforward building. It's it's a Ford F-150. It's not a Cadillac, but it's built to serve the purpose that it's going to serve.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Counsel.
So we're not going up a second floor for offices or anything?
No, we're not. We've just, the first floor has the offices, and then we have a 2-story section for the storage of the buildings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other councils on the, and I've asked to have these submitted to us as well for future references. Yep. And we want to also send our well wishes to your coworker and her family. Any other councilors? All in favor? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
On the special permit for the DPW building, Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes, Council President Zambudo? Council President? Voting yes, and Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, the special permit received a favorable recommendation. Next item is an ordinance further amending Title VI relative to non-domesticated animals.
Anyone here? I know that this, Dr. Khan came up last week and spoke on behalf of this. This was just a small section change, changing the wording to state chickens. I'm not sure if anyone on the board wishes to speak on this motion. Anyone have any comments? Anyone in the audience wish to speak on the motion? No? Madam Clerk? Call. Oh, there you go.
Do I have to press? Oh, no. Megan Witter, 36 Breedens Lane. I just wanted to say I lived in Oregon. Well, I'm born and raised in Revere, but I lived in Oregon for 6 years, and I had neighbors with chickens, and it was very cool to just go over and have fresh eggs every morning. So I just thought y'all should know that it's a good idea. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Catano, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Viviana Catano, Mountain Ave, Revere. Just very quickly, just want to say that we have been meeting with residents. People are very enthusiastic about the chickens. We're going to guide this process well, so this is done with the proper regulations, avoiding any issues in the future. So just want to speak that I have definitely heard from residents. There's some people that are ready and enthusiastic about the city expanding urban farming. So please slash that part so we can get the urban farming work moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any councilors? Madam Clerk? Oh, Councilor Rotundo.
Having been the maker of the motion that started this, I think this is a great thing. More importantly, I think this is something that brings the community together. This is a community of immigrants, and we all bring different facets of our life to this community. Part of it is farming, and as Councilor Janino will recollect, her family was in the farming and flower business for many, many years. So I support this 1,000%.
Thank you. Any other councilors? No? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
On the ordinance amending the ordinance relative to non-domesticated animals, Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Sereno?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes, Council President Zambudo? Yes, and Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has a favorable recommendation for the full city council this evening.
Thank you, and that concludes our zoning subcommittee.